Scotland against the All Blacks, folks, this weekend from Murrayfield. Is this the Scottish side who can get their first ever win over the All Blacks, or will Razor be able to maintain this flawless record for the boys in black? The squads have been named. We'll go through them. There are a few changes, some stats, predictions, what have the coaches been saying, key guys to highlight, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this weekend's match is going to go. Can the Scots do it? Well, they've got the back line to do it, but they need the forwards to have the game of their lives. I feel like in particular the front row. For the All Blacks, I am very excited about our new midfield combo, which we saw a glimpse of last week. But we are getting our depth tested at lock. That is for sure. Let's start with the Scots, because they are the home side. They played last week against the US and flogged them 85-0, remembering the US are not the strongest team. It was largely made up of MLR players. And the Scots themselves were limited to only their Edinburgh and Glasgow players. So this Scottish side is very much changed from last week's side. All the big gun guys are back. And all the talk has been, at least when they're asking Razor questions, about Finn Russell. What do you think about Finn Russell? How talented was Finn Russell back when he was in New Zealand? Having a brief stint there when he was a youngster. Did you see what he was going to do? All this stuff. And Finn Russell is a magnificent player. Like, he does things that no other 10s might even think to do, let alone be able to execute. But the fact that Xander Fagerson, their tight head prop, is out, I feel like is a bigger story, but it's not as sexy because it's a prop. It's prop chat instead of creative number 10 chat. Yeah, the Scots don't have massive depth at tight head. Xander was going to go on the Lions tour, but for an injury which kept him out. The fact that he's not back fit because he's been touch and go with his return. The fact that he's not back fit, I feel like doesn't do them any good. Darcy Ray is there at tight head. As I said, he's going to need to have one of the best games of his career. If Xander was back, he's not going to be 100% match fit for sure because he's not had rugby for a very long time, but I still would have liked to see him back. Ashman and Schoeman, regular starters for Scotland. That's, there she goes. I mean, Schoeman went on the Lions tour. He wasn't regularly selected, but Schoeman being back is also a bit of good news. And then you got a former Lion and Rory Sutherland on the bench too. But yeah, Darcy Ray and Elliot Millar-Mills on the tight head could be make or break for Scotland. They got a good lock-in duo in Gilchrist and Cummings, and the Scottish back row has been excellent for a long time. They've got Gregor Brown, who's kind of that lock-loose forward hybrid, big bit of timber, abrasive, and he's like almost 2 meters tall, so he's going to be a great addition in the number 6 jersey. High work rate. Matt Fagerson, speaking of high work rate, can play every position in the back row. Will be one of the top tacklers of the game, assuming the All Blacks get some possession and the Scots are made to make some tackles. And then Jack Dempsey will be used to get that kind of punch go forward. I like the Scottish back row. I like the Scottish locky duos. I just wish Xander was there at tight head, even if he wasn't 100%. But obviously they're not going to risk him if he's still injured. The 9-10 combo is changed from the team that played last week because neither of these guys were available. Ben White's playing his rugby in France and Finn in the Premiership, so they are released for the international window. Both again, Lions guys. Ben White was a late addition to the Lions tour. Finn Russell was pulling the strings at 10. And as I said, all the focus is going on him. If he gets some ball, he's going to do electric things. He's going to make the Scottish back line hum, for sure. But it's going to be what kind of platform his forwards can give him. Ben White, being ahead of Dobie is an interesting one because Dobie's been in phenomenal form for Scotland. I mean, he scored 3 tries and set up one against the Americans last week as well. But I guess for the big game, they've brought back the big game player. Dobie is still on the bench, and remember, he can cover wing as well, which is helpful for the Scots, seeing as they've gone with a 6-2 split on the bench. Midfield is another area of strength, if you like, for the Scots. Sione, Tuipulotu, and Rory Hutchinson get the nod in this one. Obviously, Hugh Jones out with a long-term injury is another unfortunate one, but Scotland's got loads of guys in the midfield. McDowell, who played last week, is not even in the squad for this one. Redpath didn't even make the Scottish squad entirely, so they are pretty blessed for depth. Tuipulotu is captain, and they talked a fair bit about him from the New Zealand camp. I think Jason Holland was talking about him, being a guy who can take the ball to the line, unlock the guys around him as well. So Tuipulotu and Russell work really well together. And again, in the backline, there's no problems, man. They're going to be fine. Darcy Graham there on the right wing, pocket rocket, and then Duhan is out. Kyle Steyn is in on the left wing. I feel like that's a sensible but not sexy choice because Duhan can do crazy stuff. Like you've seen him score stupid tries where he busts multiple tackles. In terms of just like pure X factor, you would have to go Duhan, but I do feel like Kyle Steyn is a more complete player. So it's a sensible, but as I said, not a sexy choice. And then Kinghorn being back is phenomenal news for Scotland. I mean, in the Six Nations, back at the start of the year when he was playing regular rugby, led the Six Nations for carries, for run meters, for line breaks, for offloads. Like, the dude is electric there at fullback. I'm glad the experiment of playing him at 10 is long gone, because at fullback he looks one of the best players in the world. And they're also bolstered on the bench as well, because Rory Darge is back in terms of great Scottish loose forwards. That guy hits rucks for days, so he will certainly bring some punch from the bench at the breakdown for the Scots. Elsewhere, George Turner, Rory Sutherland and Millar Mills, front row replacements. They will need to be, as I said, on form when they come on. Marshall Sykes is your lock replacement. He started last week, so he's down to the bench for this one. And they got Josh Bayliss as the extra loose forward on the bench, although Gregor Talented did mention he can play wing in a pinch. So can Jamie Dobie, the halfback replacement. And then Tom Jordan can play multiple positions in that Scottish back line as well. It's the back line, man. Like, they scored, was it 13 tries against the Americans last week, and 12 of them came from the backs. The Scots love getting these cracking backs into action, but the forwards need to scrummage well, maul well, and give their backs a platform to do their thing. For the All Blacks, I mentioned the locking crisis because Scotty Barrett injured in last week's game. The captain, he's out. We started the tour without Tuipulotu and without Paddy Tuipulotu. They were injured, so there's already 3 locks down. We've got Josh Lord and Fabian Holland as our starting locks. Fabian Holland's had a cracking debut season for the All Blacks. I mentioned them last week as well, but if you're any Scottish viewers who don't really watch much in the way of me following the All Blacks this year, proper bit of tall timber lock, great at the line out, great tackle machine, got man of the match last week against the Irish. So him being there is great, but essentially we're down to our 5th and 6th choice locks in Josh Lord, who starts alongside Fabian Holland, and then Sam Darry, who's had a bit of an injury-disrupted season himself, but he's been back in after working his way through the kind of domestic game here in New Zealand. So the locking depth is getting tested. Front row is unchanged with de Groot, Taylor, and Newell. Newell's a hell of a scrummager, and if de Groot can turn the screws at scrum time as well, that'll give the All Blacks a great bit of go forward, and it'll put the Scots under heaps of pressure. Back row is also changed, and I feel like All Blacks fans are pretty happy about the change, because you got Satiti, who's been a bit of a super sub in recent times, getting a start at number 6. He needs to replicate some of that bench form into starting form. Savia is there at 7. I mean, Savia, you can wax lyrical about him for days because he's regularly one of the top tacklers, top tackle busters. He kicks and does everything, gets turnovers, super player. And then Peter Lakai is there at number 8, so continuing on from last week. So Simon Parker is out, although Razor did mention he's had a lot of rugby, so I guess is kind of due for a rest. And then we got Duplessis Karefi on the bench. So there's a hell of a lot of turnovers potentially in this All Blacks back row. Beware at the breakdown, I guess, with this AB's mobile and, as I said, very, very turnover-orientated back row. It just lacks a bit of height, potentially. Like Gregor Brown there certainly is going to tower over his All Blacks counterparts there. Roygaard and Barrett at 9 and 10. Barrett took a few knocks last week, but he's still good to go. And Roygaard is our guy, you feel like, at number 9. He did electric things against the Irish last week, helped set up some good breaks and scored a hell of a try. So he's going to need to doing his thing. And then the midfield. The midfield, it's changed a lot for the ABs with a whole bunch of guys getting to go, but Quinn Tupaia at 12 and Lester Fainga'anuku at 13. Remembering Geordie Barrett has come home with his injury that he suffered last week. This Geordie Barrett's injury could be a blessing in disguise in terms of getting these guys a crack in the midfield, because Quinn Tupaia has forced his way into Razor's starting lineup. That's how good his performances have been in the black jersey. And Leicester, back from France, they kind of parachuted him into the squad, and he's, again, come from the bench, and now he's back in the starting lineup. He's not on the wing this time, he's in the midfield, and we saw what he could do last week in terms of getting the ball over the advantage line, so I'm pretty excited about how that midfield could go. Leroy Carter, a little bit quieter last week, but has got a great try-scoring record for a guy early in his All Blacks career on the right wing. Caleb Clark was bloody good on the left wing last week. Got a bunch of line breaks for the ABs, and then Will Jordan there at fullback. Also the bench, like Samasoni Tokiaho, and then the props, Tamaiti Williams and Pasilio Tosi. That's like 280 kilos of North Island beef to bring off the bench. I feel like that could be a difference maker. Our two massive props, 140 kgs each. Yeah, they could physically turn the screws on the Scots. Sam Derry, Duplessis Karifi, the other two forwards as I mentioned. Cortez Ratsama, Billy Proctor's back in, and D-Mac showed his use from the bench as well in terms of speeding up the game. So, yeah, All Blacks lineup. Lock depth is getting tested, but I think you'd largely be pretty happy with how this team might go. Some stats for you. The Scots, I mean, they bust heaps of tackles. If you're looking at not just their recent performance against the States, but like Six Nations wise, their tour to the Pacific as well, they bust tackles. They get line breaks. They also do the less sexy stuff. Their lineup numbers are usually pretty good. They don't tend to miss a heck of a lot of tackles, so defensively usually pretty solid. They had one of their worst efforts against Fiji in their game over there, but I honestly feel like the scrum. I don't mean to harp on about it, but the scrum. The scrum is the one area they absolutely need to get right for the All Blacks. Interestingly, the backline has looked a bit lacking cohesion this year, but it does seem to be maybe just slowly getting better. Like if you're looking at the meters per carry, like how good are we at getting forward, those numbers have been creeping up in the last 3 games. Like the Rugby Championship games against Argentina and South Africa were a bit of a struggle, but they are starting to trend in the right direction. And they had more run meters in that game against Ireland than in both games against the Box combined. So potentially things are starting to hum for the ABs. In the last 3 games, the tackle percentage has been in the 90s. So, again, they missed fewer tackles in their last 3 games than in that one defeat at Wellington against the Box. So, I don't know. There's potentially signs of optimism with the All Blacks starting to look like the All Blacks again. But we will see. It's been a little bit up and down for the ABs in 2025. Recent history, well, the All Blacks have never lost to the Scots. But you'll notice across the last 5 games, the scores have been kind of starting to tighten up. Like back in 2010, it's 49-3. In 2012, it's 51-22. But then things start to tighten up, particularly like the last couple of games. 2017 was only 22-17. And the last game in 2022 was 31-23. Remember, Scotland had like a 9-point lead in that game. So the gaps seem to be tightening between these two sides. The average score is 35-16 to the ABs. But as I said, the results from 15 years ago, those kind of blow those numbers out a wee bit. The bookies are still predicting the All Blacks as comfortable favourites though. 9 points, and then the Rugby Forecast algorithm says 12. So the All Blacks by just more than a try is the prediction for this one. It is a afternoon kickoff in the UK, so 3:10, which is like 4:10 in the morning for us in New Zealand, which is rough, but it's better than 2 in the morning, I would say. Nick Berry, the Aussie, is the ref. If you guys want some gear, because the All Blacks will be wearing white, if you want to get yourself a white All Blacks jersey, check the All Blacks shop down in the description. They're an affiliate of the channel. Or if you're a Scottish fan who was impressed with how many guys you had go well on the Lions tour, maybe check out the Lions store down in the description too. Seeing as the tour is over, there is a heap of gear on discount. Maybe good ideas in time for Christmas. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Can the Scots get their first win? Do you think the All Blacks scrum is going to be the difference? Or do you see Finn Russell, Sione Tuipulotu, Darcy Graham combining for some sleek and sexy Scottish tries? You guys take care, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.